Okay, it's a little bit late, but I think I need to do a video since it's been a while. I think I've deleted at least 3 videos between this one and the last video, not including the one at the nap-in. So looks like I haven't been doing very much. But anyway, I've been napping a little bit off camera, especially at the nap-in. I think at the nap-in I made 7 points at least. I can't remember. I might finish this one up. We'll see what happens. I need to do some Obsidian napping. And just an update, I've been working on my Abo toolkit, or my natural tools toolkit, and these are compliments of my friend David Kinney. So thank you, David. I got this billet ground down and this pressure flaker ground down, and just so you know how it looks like before I actually grind them down to shape, I cut the tine in this way. I cut the antler in this way. I think there was a tine here. I cut the tip of that off. I cut a section of the beam. Now this one is close to the skull, and there was some skull included in this cut. So these are not sheds. These are antlers cut from the skull. So it starts out looking like this, and I grind it down like that. So I think I'll be using this in several upcoming videos, because I'm practicing with swinging these billets, holding it further back and actually pivoting instead of using my arm basically as the billet itself, and holding the antler in my hand relatively stationary. There may be some movement with the short billet, but most of the movement is with the forearm, and the forearm is basically the billet. All right, and it can also, or I can also hold a small hammerstone. Let's see. I can hold a small hammerstone in my hand and imitate what it would be like for me to mount the stone like within a piece of wood and use it as a billet. I've been requested a couple times to mount stone to the end of a stick or something and try to use that as a billet as well. But if I just grip it, rigidly, my forearm is the billet with a stone tip. Okay, as long as I grip it without much movement, it simulates how a billet would act. It's hard with stones like this to get a good firm grip, or get a good firm hafting onto a stick or something. It comes loose within 1 or 2 attempts to make a point. It doesn't last, but it lasts forever, basically, just holding it in your hand. Okay, so there's that. I'm getting ready to make a bunch of pressure flakers so I don't have to keep resharpening during the videos. Lots of pressure coming up, lots of pressure flaking. Okay. But in this particular video, I was hoping to do some Obsidian napping. Now, I can't find the flakes that I was going to nap. Oh. I thought I had them right here, but I do have this large piece I could take a flake off. I keep getting requests to do more thin flake knapping. So, without much further ado, and thin flake knapping is mostly pressure flaking, so I get to wander off on tangents and talk while I'm knapping. And that kind of fun stuff. So, that's what I'll be doing. I want to get a really thin flake if I can. Because people have trouble with these really thin flakes. And it's no surprise, I have trouble with these too. Really? Oh yeah. I have trouble with these too. It's difficult for everybody. Okay. No fan today. The weather's getting cool enough that I don't have to run the fan. That's always fun. Not to have that background noise when I'm reviewing the videos. Okay. So, what to talk about while I'm doing the little pressure flaking? Or the little pressure flakes. Thought I had everything organized. All right. And yes, this is natural obsidian. This is from Glass Buttes. It's not anything special. It's not TV glass. It's natural obsidian, which is a little bit harder, tougher than the glass. But pretty much the same as glass. What about the glass dust? You can see the dust, I think, coming off of this. Some of it's from the abrader, some of it's from the obsidian. I knew that was going to happen. There was a radial fracture in that flake. Yeah. Right down the middle, there was a fracture in the flake. So that solves that problem. Now there's no fracture. But it's a lot smaller. But it's still within range of a good many arrowhead types. Alright? Oh yes. Okay. So this is very late at night. I'm kind of tired, but not too tired to nap. You don't need very much I don't need very much conscious activity going on when I'm napping now that I've got some experience, so it's not that hard to nap when you're tired. The only thing that is difficult when you're tired is controlling emotions. Yeah, I forget. I need to use 2 gloves when I nap glass, because I get flakes between my hand and the pressure flaker. For those of you who are just tuning in and asking why when some nappers don't use any gloves at all when napping glass, I prefer gloves when napping glass, and I'll be napping a lot more glass in the future. Oh yeah, the dust. The glass dust is not as hazardous as the rock dust. And the reason for that is the silica dust from rocks actually chemically reacts with chemicals in your lungs, or with, you know, the lung tissue itself, where glass is inert and does not interact chemically with your lungs, so it doesn't give you that same risk of silicosis. There is a risk for injury to the lungs with glass dust, but it's not the same. And you guys can look it up and stuff. But for you guys who are new that didn't know that, there you go. Glass is safer. The dust, it's not safe, but it's safer than stone dust. Okay. And this winter I'll be napping inside a lot, so that's a concern. And I think I'll be making a move to a different shop area, different location, and I'll be napping inside with ventilation, of course, but you still get the dust. Okay. What is the easiest shape to make as far as thin flake arrowhead? The easiest shape is always just a plain old triangle with no notches, straight sides and a straight base. Pretty simple. How do you haft it? Well, I prefer only glue when using just a plain triangle. If it's a natural glue, hide glue actually sticks to Obsidian, so that I would use hide glue. Now, a lot of guys use the pine sap or pine resin glue. Yes, you can use it, but just keep in mind that it's not going to hold, it's not going to grip the Obsidian surface if you use natural pine pitch glue. It will become dislodged easily, especially in cold weather. That glue, that pine pitch glue, will not hold very well. It holds enough for one shot, yeah. And in most cases, the arrowhead will become dislodged, which is fine. If your shot placement is good, you hit the animal in the vitals. It really doesn't matter if the arrowhead becomes loose after that. As long as it does the initial cutting into the vital organs, you can bring down the animal. Okay. So hide glue actually attaches itself to the glass or obsidian. You got to make sure you don't put too much hide glue, because if it's too thick, it tends to warp, right? And it'll curl up, and sometimes it'll snap the delicate arrowhead if it's very delicate. The glue, as it dries, can actually snap or create a crack in the arrowhead. Okay. Of course, hide glue being water-based, it does shrink a lot when drying. You don't have to worry about that with pine pitch glue. It does not shrink. It's a hot melt type glue. And you can also haft obsidian points without glue at all, just the sinew by itself, or with plant fiber by itself. If you have a stemmed point or nice notches that go in fairly deep so that when you wrap it, it wraps close to the wood, you don't have much movement in the arrowhead, and you can wrap without glue. You construct a notch well. Takes a little more time to match the notch up with the arrowhead, but a lot of guys do it that way. So it's not an issue in most cases. Okay. If you don't want to use glue, or you know that the glue you have is not going to work with glass. If you use epoxy, make sure the epoxy is for glass. It'll say on the packaging. Okay. So what else? What else do we talk about here? I was talking about some philosophical aspects of flint knapping in one of the videos I deleted. And I deleted it for two reasons. One, I was not being as coherent as I would like. And two, I think I snapped the point. This is my second attempt at an obsidian point in the past 2 weeks or whatever it was since I've been away. So I'm going to try to be very careful with this particular point. And it's not going to be perfectly straight, and I might have some of the original surface left on the flake. Yeah, could I haft it just like that? Yeah, it'd be kind of crude, but it can be hafted just like that, really easily. And if you want something quick, if you're in a survival situation or whatever, I don't recommend making a bow and arrow during a survival situation unless you know that you're going to be lost for days. I would try to find a way out first, instead of saying to yourself, oh, I'm lost, now I gotta hunt. Well, just do your best to try to get out of the lost situation, and then if you're fairly sure that I'm not going to be able to get out of here, then you can start hunting or fishing, right? Make expedient tools first, and then go after the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, the easy prey, the fish and the frogs and the turtles and stuff. Of course, you need to find a source of water. That's the first thing. So you'll be consuming aquatic animals first, right? Making crude tools to survive, and as you get better at providing food for yourself, you make more advanced or take more time to make better equipment. Hopefully you won't be lost for more than a week or so. Anyway, I'm not a survivalist type of guy. I know that there's a lot of people out there who are experts at survival that watch Flintknapping videos, so just wanted to mention that a little bit while I'm trying to figure out what to talk about while I'm doing this. Alright, so this is going to be curved. I'm not going to take that curve out. Yeah, I'm going to have to take some of it out from down here. Taking it from the tip is just not feasible because it's already too thin. So I'll work on this. I can thin down this part down here and at the same time try to make it straighter. Okay. So I was thinking of some philosophical aspects of flint knapping. What can I talk about? And there's really not much, actually, because when we're talking about philosophy, a lot of philosophers were not handicraft people. They were simply thinkers. And they really didn't like doing anything else except thinking. So their perspective, in many cases, ignores the lessons learned through handicrafting or the way the mind works when you're making something, right? They tend to not express their philosophies with that in mind. It's all thought experiments. So you get things like, well, we're not sure exactly how the subconscious works or how the conscious works, or apparently we're not aware exactly what we're doing because the subconscious makes all the decisions and the conscious mind is there for the ride, and blah, blah, blah. I don't subscribe to that particular line of reasoning. I'm not a determinist, although I do think there are deterministic systems. If we're talking about inanimate objects and non-life, there are deterministic systems, yeah, until something chaotic happens. You know, something unpredictable. Quantum mechanics, study of quantum physics has revealed that there are many random events. So even inanimate systems are not completely deterministic. There is some randomness. But as far as I'm concerned, life is autonomous, and life needs to survive. That's its basic mission, to survive. And it needs a certain level of autonomy or problem solving in order to do that. If you're a deterministic system, you don't need to solve any problems to survive. You just go with the flow. And of course, Flintknapping is one of those survival activities, and man has become very good at it, along with many other handicrafts that are related to survival. I mean, why else would you spend so much time with rocks? And this natural glass, hazardous natural glass, and risk cutting yourself and risk the infections and all that. You make the decision to do it based on your need to survive and your autonomy, your ability to think, to solve the problem, how to obtain food in the best way using what you have available. That includes your brain, right? Got to use the brain. We're not that strong as far as animals go. Not that fast. We can always grow plants or gather plants and that kind of material, but there's a lot of competition for that sort of thing. And plants have natural defenses that cause many of them to be toxic, or the toxins build up slowly in our system. Same with other animals. Many animals are better adapted to eating plants than we are. That sort of thing. So we had to hunt with if we wanted to hunt, we had to hunt with tools, because we're not as good as a lion or tiger, for example, and just raw brute force and speed. So philosophers kind of, they don't really touch on that aspect of our existence or development. They tend to speak mainly in thought experiments and abstractions. Not down to earth type of, so to speak, a type of activities where we are in constant contact with physical objects and solving problems on a physical level. So anyway, I was trying to talk about philosophy in one of my other videos that I deleted, and it didn't come out right. So I was going to post one of them anyway. The last one I did, I went to the nap-in after I had deleted a couple videos. I was going to post one before I left to the nap-in, but I didn't. I said, nah. We'll wait. Wait till it gets a little bit cooler. And wait till I can work without that fan noise. Okay, where did my file go? Okay. So yeah, as you get smaller and smaller with the arrowhead, it becomes more and more delicate, as we all know. The tool shape and the tool quality has to improve as it gets smaller. As the arrowhead gets smaller, you have to become more careful, more detailed. It's a whole different dynamic than when you first start shaping that flake. So I'm not sure if I discussed that enough, that the technique changes as the point gets smaller and smaller. I know I have discussed it, I just don't think I've discussed it enough. Now, if you're working with slabs, you start at a certain point where you already have the basic shape, and you just you're in a more narrow range of focus and of ability. But when you start with a piece like this, knock off a flake, that's one skill right there. Getting the flake roughly shaped and all the big thick spots removed, that's another skill stage or skill set. Roughing it out like this, basically getting a preform, it's another stage, another skill set. And then the final finishing is yet another skill set. And as the workpiece gets smaller and smaller, these skills change. And some guys are better at certain stages than others. Some guys reach a certain stage and they cannot progress past it. And they end up either giving up on napping or switch the material, switch their strategy by using different tools, maybe different metals. Use steel instead of copper, for instance. I mean, you try all kinds of stuff. I'm getting crushing on this surface around the edges. So I've got to reacquaint myself with how I deal with those, and I'll deal with that on the next segment.